We're not supposed to die with our dreams, our hopes, and our goals. We're not supposed to die with that stuff. Either if you're not going to write the book, pass it on to someone else. Help them to build their story. Help them to do something. You are responsible for your legacy. Don't be the next Denzel. Don't be the next Oprah Winfrey. Don't be the next whoever. Be the next best you. Everybody has a different starting point. Start where your story becomes most exciting. You've got to know what you want to share, and you have to understand that environment is everything. If you're in an uncomfortable environment, you're not going to be able to write. You don't have to be a 10. You don't even have to be a 0. Always remember that there's someone who knows more than you and someone who knows less than you.
All right, everyone, we're back again with Jill Collins Connections. We have Monique Lisa with us today, and Monique is an amazing woman. I have to tell you, we met on Clubhouse a few years back and we've become soul sisters. We absolutely love and adore each other. I was actually in their wedding when they got married a few years ago, her and her husband Delano, and I'm so grateful to have her with us today. Monique is a writer, director, and producer of stage, film, and books, and she is really a top-notch individual. Her story goes back a ways, and she's got some incredible accolades, including a 45-time nominated playwright. Imagine that. So what she brings to the table here today is she actually works with aspiring writers, and she's helped over 3,000 to write their book in the past 3 years. Stay tuned, because we're going to be talking about how to write your book, how to find your story, and how to really dive in. If you've been wanting to write a book for a long time, or maybe you've already written one and you're a little bit stuck right now and you're like, you know what, it's just not selling. I don't know why. My friends have bought it, but I just can't seem to get any traction. Monique is here to help. Let's dive right in. Monique, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here today.
It is so good to be here, Jill. You know how much I love you and I love your YouTube channel. So just being asked to be here is a privilege. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. And tell us a little bit about what is it that someone needs. First of all, not everyone needs to write a book. Maybe everybody does at some point, but for those people that are really saying, you know what, people keep telling me I should write my story. I've got something to tell and I don't know what to do. Where do they get started? What do they do?
I tell people, especially when they ask that question, or if I hear that question floating in writing circles, the first thing I say is, what is it about your story that makes you different and makes you unique? If you have that burning desire inside of you to write your book, what are the things that you can pull out that are not cliche or everyone's been there? What is unique about you? And if you start to write down the things that are unique about you, the experiences, whether it be trauma, whether it be joyful moments, whether it be accomplishments, what are those things that you have been through that would make your story unique? And when you start there, I think that will be the best place for you to start. Like, don't try to think of other people's stories and then all of a sudden try to clone yourself into that. You want to create this bank. You think of a bouquet of flowers. Every flower, if it's a mixture, has a different type of flower. So each one of the parts of your story is like a different flower. And as it unfolds, as it opens up, now you have this information that you can put in book form, in written form. So I say, let's go for the gusto. What is unique about you? What is important to your story? So those are the things I would share. Yeah.
So what's unique about you? You and I have talked about me writing my book for a long time, and you actually helped me with my brand here that I have today. And thank you for that. And to Delano, who is a brand architect, your husband, who actually designed and created my brand. So I'm grateful for that and for help pulling me through this. This was so great. And I remember we talked about the book is always like this. Okay, so I'm thinking to myself, I'm sitting here as a listener, I'm going, yeah, okay, I want to write a book, but do I start, hey, I was born in Wisconsin and I grew up, and do you do every detail? How do you know where to start? Give us some meat of what would I do to start with? And I know you're going to share some things as well about your programs and things that you offer too, which are going to be in the links in the description below. You'll be able to access everything, get in contact with Monique. But for today, what are some things that do I start with when I was born and then I was whatever? How do we go with that? How do we create a format?
Everybody has a different starting point. And I say, start where your story becomes most exciting. For me, I would start at the age of 7 because I'll share that I woke up one morning, it was a Saturday morning, and Saturday mornings are cartoons. You get up, you go watch cartoons until your parents get up. And I got up this one morning and my dresser, I had this nice long dresser. At the end of it, there was a book. No one ever has told me why that book was there, but it was 101 Dalmatians. And I just picked it up and I started reading 101 Dalmatians. And at age 7, that's a pretty thick book. Remember, books were like 3 by 5. And it took me almost 6 hours to finish reading that book. And that was the day I could say I fell in love with reading and I fell in love with writing. So for me, age 7 would be appropriate. Now, what if you're at the age of 12 and someone introduces you to an instrument and you decide that this is an instrument that you want to play, and this takes you on the journey of falling in love with the violin or the drums or the clarinet or the flute. So you have to just think about what is the most important part of your story, and how did you either fall in love with something, or how did this situation happen? Like, where are you, and how do you see yourself in terms of starting off? Like for you, Jill, we started off at the age of 5 with you, and you started to tell me different things. And I said, okay, tell me something that happened at 7, tell me something that happened at 9. Finding the starting point really has to do with what has happened and what would be important. Now, if you start off as a newborn, how much can you really tell us? Except for Delano can tell you, he remembers the doctor slapping him. I was like, that's impossible. But he said he remembers it. He remembers what the doctor had on. So everybody's different. Everybody's different. But usually it's anywhere between, I would say, 5 and 10, or 10 and 18. Somewhere in between there, people start off, only because there are memories that they'll have with them forever. The first time you went to a carnival, that kind of.
Okay, and so I'm thinking about my story and that I shared with you, and because it's the whole thing about being a connector. And I was just telling you various stories about how when I wasn't popular in school and I created my own group of kids that were all in different groups. And because what I was looking for, I think what we realized is that would be a starting point, even though there were other interesting parts of my life, maybe before that or around that time. I think it was trying to tie in like something that was a life-changing moment for me was the thread that has carried through my entire life. It's like there's a common denominator in connecting the dots. Is that important to find that? Or is it just, I wasn't very smart in school. That doesn't really tie into smart. I didn't get great grades. Does that tie into anything else, like connecting the dots along the way, finding a common thread?
Just like knowing how old you should be, like when you start thinking about your story, you also have to think about the area where you have the most memories. If you're 5 and you can only remember dropping your ice cream on the sidewalk, and then there's no other memory around it, that's not a good starting point, because you don't have a lot of memories around it. So there's not a lot of recall. Even if you start to ask questions, you still personally don't have a lot of answers. Now, if you were 7 and it was the first day of school and you lost your tooth, and you notice that there was maybe blood on the desk, or something traumatic, you're going to remember how the nurse treated you. Did the kids laugh? Were they friendly? Was the team? You're going to have a lot more memory. So you want to start in a place where you have more to recall, more things to pull in, more information. Because if you have random thoughts that can't be connected, then that's not a good starting place, especially if you choose an age just to choose it, as opposed to, I remember when I was 8 years old, the first time I got on a plane, and this could be someone who decides they want to be a pilot. That's a good place to start, because you got on a plane. You got on a plane, you got to meet the captain. They used to pin the little wings on you. And then you have the flight attendant who may have been super nice. Okay, you're now being bumped up maybe from economy up to first class because maybe you're flying by yourself. So these are different things that you can think about to say, this is where I start. If you're a chef, the first time someone offered for you to make something, your mommy's little helper for a chef. If you're a dancer, the first time you got to see a dance performance or saw someone dancing and went, wow, I wish I could do that. So depending on what you do in your career, I think that would guide you towards where you should start. For me, I love dance. So I'm going to start where those two things were introduced to me.
I love that. You just gave me some new ideas, and because it's like one was creating that little group that I did, and that was a funny story. And then my mom been knocking on doors when I was trying to make new friends when we first moved to Atlanta and not having any friends. And my mom goes, go and make some friends, and just here's the directory with the kids of the ages of you, and go knock on their doors. And I was like a total, but I did. And whatever, we're from the Midwest. We just are nice to everybody. Hi, my name is Jill Collins. I just moved here from Wisconsin. Yes. What are you doing at my door? Okay. So I was not real popular. But there is that. But what I did get out of that is the opportunity to figure out what worked. I got really good at studying people. I studied the popular kids. And I don't know if I obviously thought I was doing that at the time, but I just wanted to be so much like them. And so I looked at what they did. I saw how they behaved, and I saw just the interaction. And I said, I can create that on my own. So I went to all the other kids that were quote unquote unpopular, and I created that group where I had this little clipboard with a list for names, and I had everybody who wanted to sign up. I said, do you want to be in this group? And 40 people signed up. And then my mom made copies of the list, and I handed it out to everybody, and they all became friends, and they were like in this unpopular group. And the story. But then after that, everybody became friends, and they stayed friends, and everybody was, are you in that unpopular group? And they're like, yes, I am. And so we behaved like those kids that were popular. We'd say hi to each other. And these are kids that didn't have common interests necessarily. Some were like more nerds. They were into like certain things. And then other kids were, I don't know, just the different sects that we have, the different groups.
Right.
They all came together because there was this commonality. There was this bond for some reason of not being popular. And to this day, there are kids that are grown that are still friends 30 years later. And their kids are friends, and they live close to each other. I talked to some of them at my reunion a few years ago, and I was like, gosh, that's so amazing. And so to me, that was like the core thing of like where I did that. But so I could see not just about that group, but what it was is how I studied people to see what made things work, and how to connect, and how to interact with people, and how to create community and create a sense of belonging. Because to me, my core is, I don't want anyone to ever feel like they don't belong and that they don't matter. And that's where it came from. And so that's like the start of probably where I would start as an example for our viewers.
And what I loved about what you said was that you followed the lead of your mother. And so she was the one that kind of initiated that for you, because that was connecting, but that was organic connecting. You remember how people used to sell Tupperware door to door and sell encyclopedias door to door? And so if you comb a whole neighborhood, now you find out who really wants that Tupperware. So you're doing the work. So your mom introduced you to connecting. She decided, she's a superhero for that. She decided that, hey, you want to make friends? You go find them. You go, and that's a marketing tool. If you want to sell something, you have to go where your audience is, where your people are. And so that's exactly what she did with you. And that's the beauty of now who you are. You are a connector.
Oh, I love that. She'll love that. Hi, Mom. You'll love this when you watch this video. She always used to say, oh, you're so good at making friends, Jill. I'm like, Mom, I'm one of the least popular kids in school. I made up for it when I got older. So I think I do pretty okay.
You're doing a great job of it. You connect with amazing people.
Because I think I can relate. I can relate to what it's like to not be a part of something. And that's what is so important to me, is to include everyone. So thank you for that. And so that makes me think of how someone who has this burning desire to write the book, and yet they're just not sure where to start. We talked about that, but how does someone then say, I know there was an exercise we did in Clubhouse one time. You were doing these awesome writing groups there, and you took us through an exercise. And the truth be told, as not everybody else knows this probably, but I will do my taxes before I'll write sometimes. I just am like, I got to write. Okay. I think I have to clean. I have to do the dishes. Darn it. I got to go wash my car. I've got to do something else. I will avoid it. But some people really want to do this. And you walked us through this exercise. Can you elaborate on that? Because I was able to, in about an hour, you started with some words, and you walk us through that exercise. Because I think I was just blown away by, I got like an intro of a book just in an hour. It was so beautiful.
Yeah. The first thing I tell people, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So how do you write a book? One word at a time. So I ask people to write down 5 of the most important words that connect to them as a person. What are the 5 most important words? And then when you write those 5 words down, we go through why these words are important. And once you understand why those words are important, then we start to build, give me a sentence. Give me a sentence on why these words are important. And if these are important, now connect those sentences. Show me why they're important, because you're now going to elaborate on it. You're going to expound. You're going to expand. And once you do that, you have the beginnings of your story. And it's not just any words. They really have to mean something. Like for me, if I give you 5 words, I would say ballet. I would say book. I would say hip hop. And then I would think of one more like family. So those things have to be in my story. Why? Because I was a dancer from a very early age. I was a part of the hip hop culture. very early age, the beginning, every movie, I've been in every hip hop movie, every hip hop television show, almost every stage. If I were to say reading, I told you 101 Dalmatians, that's important. That has to be in my story. And then family's extremely important to me. And so if you go down the list of the words that are most important to you, you're going to start to find a place where to build your story. Now, if I say dance, but I have no dance experience, and I just say I like dance, how important is that to my story? Because sometimes people write things down and they write it because they just want to get through the exercise. But now you have to think. For Jill, for you, if I say Minneapolis, does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, I have a cousin that lives there, but it wouldn't be enough significance. There wouldn't be enough significance there to write anything about it.
Exactly,
Yeah, for
exactly.
sure.
People just throw things in. But now if I challenge you on your words and you can give me a whole almost dissertation on that word, why it's important, think about all the things you're saying while you're explaining it, and that becomes part of your story.
I love that so much. I love it so much.
And no one taught me that. It's because I have a love for words. And if you say, let's say you said potato chip, I would want to know, why is that important? Because I have a love for words, and you are going to expound by telling me why that's important to you.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's amazing. So the word exercise is a great idea, a great way to expand on things and to figure out, pull some ideas out. And then let's dive into someone maybe who has a book, but maybe it's not selling. We're going to switch gears here. Someone who, and we'll go back to people who want to write a book too, if you have some other thoughts there. But I just want to get into this a little bit. Is a lot of people I know have written books, and they're like, oh, I just wrote a book because everybody says you should have a book because it's like a calling card and it's your business card today, and it gives you social proof. And maybe a lot of people didn't put a lot of time into it. They just put something out there, and they're going, yeah, all my friends bought it. I got on even some people get on the Amazon bestseller, and I made it, but it's really not gaining traction after that initial pop. So what can someone do? What do you do when you have a book that you're like, I already did this, so I'm past this?
Yes.
What happened?
The first thing I do is I ask a lot of questions. What was your motivation behind writing this book? Why was this topic important? Why was this genre important to you? And if they can't really answer those questions, it's just like you said, they just threw something together because everyone is doing it and it's your new calling card and it's your new business card. But if we really take a deep dive into why you wrote the book, what you'll find is that the pieces that are missing are probably parts of your own story. Sometimes people throw out a book and it's just bones. There's no meat. So if your story is missing, I ask questions about your story. I'm doing that with a couple of clients right now. And then after that, I want to know, where are the case studies? Where are the case studies that kind of back up the information that you're sharing? They don't have case studies. Where are the references? Where are you leading people to show them where this important information was found and how they can expound and build on that information? So a lot of times there's key elements that are missing. And so it's not attracting anyone. And the word of mouth is not happening for you because it was pretty much just a book that was thrown together. And when you do that, you do yourself a disservice. And I said that in one of my posts on Instagram. I said, you hired a company instead of a coach, because a company is just trying to make money and look, herd them in, move them out. They're just trying to pull it all together. But a coach that you're paying, that you're doing a one-on-one or a small group coaching session, they're going to ask these questions. My technique is very unique because for me, I'm looking for the heart of the story. If it's a self-help book, I want to see how it helped you, because there are people like, oh, this is a great lane to be in for self-help. Yeah, but how did it help you? Where are your personal case studies? Where are the people that are coming back with testimonies to say, I worked with you, or I used your book as my blueprint and it worked? Where's that? So if you don't have those things, you have a book. I can go to Staples and buy a 25-cent book with lines in it. I have a book, but it's not doing it's a disservice to you because it's not truly representing you and maybe the passion that you have for something, or maybe the desire you have to share something, even if it's your own story. So when you have a book and it's not selling, it hasn't gained any traction after the initial first 2 weeks. Yeah, it's great to say it's an Amazon bestseller, but again, you still have to do the marketing. You still have to go live. You still have to talk about it. And one thing is really key, Jill, that we didn't get an opportunity to talk about is that there was a young lady that came into one of my coaching sessions on Clubhouse, and she was very disappointed. She said, no one's interested in buying my book. I sold about 5 to 10 copies and that was it. And I said, how soon did you start talking about the book? She was like, yeah, when I released it, I started talking about it. I said, no one knows you as an author. They don't know you as an author, so you can't throw salt and be upset with people. They don't know you as an author. So you should have been talking about the book when you started to think about the idea of writing the book. You should have been posting about, hey, I'm thinking about writing a book. And these are the topics. What do you think guys think? Because this is something that's important to me. What about this? This is a book cover I'm thinking of. What do you think about this? If you don't get people involved on the journey, then they don't necessarily feel any kind of commitment to when you release the book. And so I told her, I said, they don't know you as an author. This is new. So now you have to begin to prime the pump. You have to begin to talk to people about it. You have to let them into your world. You have to ask questions because it's still the know and trust. They have to know you as an author. They may know you as a virtual friend. They may know you as just passing by within the community, but they don't know you as an author. And so you cannot be upset.
That is one of the biggest takeaways. I'm telling you, that's amazing because you don't just wait till you all of a sudden release it and go be quiet about it. And I think the fear a lot of us might have is, if I start talking about it, what if I don't do it? And then everyone's like, whatever happened to your book? And then you're like, oh, but that's also true because it can be accountability, because then it's like, then you're on the hook to perform.
That's what you need. What are your deadlines, guidelines, and trade lines? Like, what if you say you're going to write a book and you don't write it? Now you're not keeping your word to yourself. Oh, so why should anybody buy your book or even consider buying your book when you have not committed to yourself to write the book?
Snap. Snap. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So yeah, so that's a big one. And so I love that because I know when I was doing way back when I did my brand a few years ago, everyone, you go and you get everyone to vote on social media about your logos. And then people can buy in, they give you they vote on it. And so that, you're right. What that does is it actually, I remember that now, it gets people invested in who you are and they're supporting you because they feel like they had a piece of the decision making. There's like a board of directors, so to speak, at the table of who you are in your book. And then they're going to promote, they're going to be your natural cheerleaders and your ambassadors.
And they feel good because they went on the journey with you.
Oh,
they went on the journey with you. And when you take people on a journey, they're more than happy to support you. Oof. And then they'll tell their friends to purchase the book. And they'll say, you know what, this is a really good book. They become your marketing and advertising for free because you gave them an opportunity to be involved. People, that's community.
Yay.
That is community. Right?
That's my thing.
That's community. People talk about building communities, but a simple way to build a community as an aspiring author is to take people on the journey.
Take people on the journey. That's a great line. I love that so much. Yeah. Okay, so that's a good, get your notebooks out. If your notebooks aren't out, you need to rewind and write this stuff down. This is good stuff here. This is some good stuff. I'm thinking too, is today we're really dealing with, I have two questions. One, first is about AI and the impact that AI, ChatGPT, and now Claude, and all these other things that are coming up are having on the book writing process. Is that people are writing books in a week or in a day or in a whatever it is, they're all coming up with things and they're taking, which I think is really cool to be able to take content that maybe you've already drafted and throwing it in there and coming up with this great format. But what would you say about that, about the impact of AI that are to write things like that today?
I'm not against it. And even as a writing coach, I don't feel like AI is going to take my job. I'm not against it. But what I do caution people is to remember that you still have to feed it your information. You still have to train it. You still have to make sure you're giving the right prompts. That's why they have prompt engineers, because it's not going to be able to give the passion that's inside of you. It's not going to be able to really share your story. So you still have to do some work. So if there are areas where it's great information, but it falls flat in reaching the emotional side of the person, that's where you have to step in. Because there are people that'll put a prompt in, knock out a book, and they don't go through that. They don't read it because it's very funny. If you use ChatGPT, it'll say firstly, secondly, thirdly, and conclusion for every section. It'll say the same thing over and over again. And you're like, that doesn't sound like me. So you really have to go in and you have to do the work. You cannot rely on the fact that this is a compilation of information that's been put out into the universe by all of us. So I call ChatGPT a regurgitation technology. It's regurgitating information that's out there, but it's still our information. So even though it's computing it a lot faster, you still have to go in. Where's your story? Where's your entry point? Where are the things that happened to you? Maybe you fell down, you hit your knee. When you hit your knee, you looked up and you saw something. It's not going to be able to do that. It's not going to be able to give it that human touch. So use it for self-help, for references, but those case studies are real. You've got to have real case studies. Those testimonies are real. The people that come back and say, this really helped me. And then your story is real. It's not going to know that you had ice cream at Carvel back in the day when you were 7 and no one showed up for your party. Yes, use it for what it's good for, which is just to compile information, but you still have to go in there. You still have to do the work. And the people who don't want to do the work, how many of those books can you write where they have this mechanical feel to it?
Yeah, I can get that. I'm seeing a lot of it too on YouTube videos with the,
Yeah.
the really great topics, and I go click on it and it's this voice generated thing. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. There's value, but I think there's always that value in connection and personal help, because we can rely on artificial intelligence for so much. And yet what we crave is that connection and that ability to be able to connect with a coach. I have Chat GPT and I've used it and I've played with it, and I'm even in a mastermind group with Peter Swain in that. And I just keep looking at it like, oh my God, I got to do this. I've got to learn this. And I put it off because I know, and you know me well enough to know you spent 2 weeks with me at my house, you guys did, and you were pulling it out of me. It's, come on, Jill, let's talk the story. Pull the story.
And you had so much though. You had so much. All you needed, we were the prompts and you were the Chat GPT to spill all the information. And that's all you needed. Sometimes you just need to hear the right words. I heard Jeremy say you want to be proud or you want to be rich.
Yeah, that's Peter. Yeah, Peter's book.
Yeah,
isn't that great?
Peter.
Yeah.
Peter. So when you hear that, it's what am I doing that's keeping me proud? That's a prompt. That's a prompt. I'm trying to get on the rich side. So what's keeping me from that? That's a prompt. So that's what I do. I prompt people and I get them to tell me the story is in you. I'm not putting the story in you, and ChatGPT can't create the story for you. The story is in you as an individual. And what I love about one of my coaches is that she says, your culture ad is important. Your culture ad. No one has your background. No one has your information, even if you're a twin. If you have a twin and they're not in the same class throughout the day, they're going to have different experiences. So never assume, oh, my story's been told. Oh, that's happened. No, because a lot of people get stuck in their head. And then what happens, they rob an audience that's waiting on them for something that they need from them to maybe avoid other things. If I read this about this person, I can avoid these things because now I have the information. Yeah, it's almost like getting a cheat code. That's why we read these books. Who Moved My Cheese? Eat the Frog First. The 5-Minute Atomic Habits. All of these different books are from people who are giving us a blueprint. But if they didn't write these books, we wouldn't have a plethora of books that help us in business, help us in personal. So you have a story that can help someone. And if you don't feel led to write the story, maybe you'll speak on it. Maybe you'll just talk about it. But eventually, if someone were to take your recording and transcribe it, you've got a book.
Yeah, it's just so many great things there. And I'm just thinking of the idea of figuring out what that story is and what you said. And it's a line that I always say that I really found my voice on Clubhouse in 2021. We both joined the same day.
Same day.
Know each other. So awesome. January 1st, 2021. And so we spent a lot of time there. And as I say, I found my voice. And one of the things I realized spending that much time on the audio app there, coaching and talking and listening to others and pouring into people who were suffering, going through the whole thing with the pandemic and just being at home. And everybody was just so open in those rooms in that time, is I realized that every single person on this planet has a message to share that someone needs to hear. And I'm talking to myself. And every day you don't share that message, someone's suffering. And so it could be something that you've gone through, a trauma, even like you said, a victory, a great experience. It doesn't have to be a negative experience, but those are messages, those are experiences that someone else is going through right now, that by sharing that message, which you so amazingly can pull out and help people discover, that you can actually share that and help someone else so they won't feel alone. So they have the inspiration and the ability and the hope and the confidence to do what they need to do and to be able to feel good about giving back and to make something out of a situation that maybe wasn't so pleasing, it wasn't joyful. It could be, gosh, I made this huge mistake and I learned from that, and now I want to tell everybody else about it because I learned, and I want you to not suffer like I did, or I want you to not make the same mistake I did, or I learned this great way to do this thing, and I can make the best spaghetti sauce on the planet. You guys have to know how to do this. This is incredible. I got to share this. I'm making a story about it, but you get the idea. Is that's what we're all about, is to share experiences and stories. And AI is great to be able to, like you said, to be a framework to help us craft things. But at the end of the day, your personal story and message isn't there. It's in here.
Exactly.
And I think what you are so gifted at is working with people, your clients, and helping them discover what that is. The great tips you've given so far is how we can get started, how we can tap in, and where we can find those possible clues. And then sometimes if you're like me and I need someone to hold my hand and sometimes drag me, so I need someone to go, okay, Jill, here's what we're doing. All right, tell me some more. I'm like, I don't want to do anymore. All right, just tell me that one story. What else you got? I was like, all right. So it's like birthing a baby for me. But yeah, so that's where I think a coach and personal contact really makes a difference. So
it does. And I had a client in, so you'll probably see this, but I had a client who she booked a 12-week session with me. And for 12 weeks, she did nothing.
It wasn't me. It could have been. That sounds like something I would do.
Yeah,
It wasn't
she
me.
didn't do anything. She allowed so many things to distract her. And her husband was like, oh, you're paying too much for a coach and blah, 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 blah. And I said to her, we had a real heart-to-heart talk. And I said to her, you need 3 of my 3-day boot camps. I said, because you're so distracted between work and between the grandkids and your adult kids and your husband, you're so distracted. And this is really your time, because a lot of people don't give themselves that time every day at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. or 7 to 10. I'm going to take this time, pull away from everyone, turn off the TV. I'm going to pull away and I'm going to write. I'm going to see what pours out of my heart. She wasn't doing that. So what I saw was that every time I went into her document and I would read the story, and I'm like, there's not much added. And I give word counts. I don't play. I may not be the coach for everyone, because if you're just looking for someone to just go along and you're not going to do the work, I'm not the coach for you. So she agreed to the boot camps, and they're not cheap, because if I'm going to give you that one-on-one time, you're flying into town, you're staying in a hotel, and we're going to be locked into a nice room. And it took 3 of those for her to finish her book in 9 days. So what she paid and wasted money on for 12 weeks, she did in 9 days. So she did 3 back-to-back boot camps, and she can say she wrote a book in 9 days. And it all came from focus and shutting out the noise. So how many people have so much noise around them, and in their heart, every year they go, oh gosh, I didn't write that book. And it's not that they can't, but there's so much noise. If you go to a circus or if you go to a concert, you're expecting noise, but it's organized to you because you know the songs and you know the instruments. But when you're talking about really pouring your heart into something, I don't care if it's autobiographical, I don't care if it's self-help, I don't care if it's a booklet, a pamphlet, it doesn't matter. When you don't block out the noise that would distract you from doing it, it doesn't get done. And so it's really important for you to say, no, I need this time. And that's why I wrote 52 tips. I have a book called 52 Tips to Becoming a Lean, Mean Content Machine. And it's for bloggers, it's for aspiring authors, it's for anyone. And you just look at that and you go through the list and you say, okay, yes, I can do this. You check things off. Yes, I can do this. And you keep going back to it. Oh, this is what I do. And I wrote those tips because I know that sometimes people don't realize that if you're in an uncomfortable environment, you're not going to be able to write. If you're too hot, you're too cold, you're not going to be able to write. If your clothes are too tight, you're not going to be able to write. This is for women. If you have uncomfortable clothes, that's like writing in tight jeans, and you need to be comfortable. If you're hungry or thirsty, you're not going to be able to focus. These are like practical things that people don't realize why they haven't got past the first 3 paragraphs, because the environment is not right. You're thirsty, you're hungry, you're unfocused, you're distracted. All of these different things really do matter. I have people that have written children's books that one person said, I've been wanting to write a children's book for 8 years. She wrote a children's book with me in 24 hours. She was done. She was done. Why? Because I had her focused. We did a 48-hour boot camp. She was done in the first day. And she cried like a baby. She was like, I've been wanting to do this for so long. And it really comes down to, when are you putting yourself first for this project? And when are you blocking out the noise of distraction? That's really what it comes down to.
That is so wise. And it's so true because we have so many things that are coming at us all day long in this day and time. And it's just more information, more the phone, this stuff. We can spend all day. I always say if I ever got house arrest, I could probably be fine and happy the rest of my life because I could find things to do on this thing. It's so, you just got to put it down. I'm talking to myself right now, probably nobody else, but it's true because we can mindlessly spend an entire day doing nothing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's what did I do today? And excuse me. Yeah. So I think that's really important is to really be intentional, set some time aside. Something else that I've heard others do is having these writing groups where they have like other people that are wanting to write as well. And it's not that you necessarily talk, but you get on a Zoom call with someone, you have an accountability partner or a group, and you say, okay, from 1 to 3 on Friday, we're going to sit down and we're going to just get on Zoom and we don't talk to each other, but there's that accountability because you and I are sitting here, we're not talking, we're probably on mute and we're just typing away right now. And we're doing our thing, we're researching and we're doing that. And I think just finding, for me, that's the kind of thing that works for me is having that accountability, having somebody around because it just doesn't, I'm not as motivated on my own, but when I know I have people to show up for other people, I will always do that.
That's the digital community. See, that's the digital community where everyone is. And so if you're like-minded, you can come together, you can set aside that time because no one is going to have their camera on and they're cooking while you're writing. No, they're going to be writing or they're going to be typing. And that's what I love about my small groups. I have my small groups. I put everyone inside of a breakout room and I pop into the room. I ask questions. Are we good? Do you know where to start? Do you know where to finish? Do you know your word count? I go into the breakout room and I think I can have up to 15 breakout rooms. So that's the beauty of it. Now you don't have to worry about if Johnny likes to listen to music while he writes and Susie needs complete quiet. No, you are good. You don't have to be concerned about that and you can just write freely. And the other thing is too, just going back to setting aside time. When I wrote my award-winning stage play, All My Struggles, which started off as a book idea, from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., I would just spew out ideas, 6 to 7 a.m. Now I was homeschooling my kids, building a home, and I was building my daycare outside of my home and doing productions on the weekend and getting my another bachelor's degree. So I was doing all of this stuff at the same time, but I said from this time to this time is sacred. 6 to 7 a.m. is sacred. And from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. is sacred. That's writing time. So I gave myself 4 hours a day, not interrupting my schedule, because this was before my day started from 6 to 7. When I say day started, meaning that before I started working on other things and after my day was over. In 9 weeks, I had a 114-page outline of my stage play. And we edited it down to 84 pages. Now, I took forever in my mind. I was like, I'm going to write it. So I was talking to myself too, I'm going to write it. And for 20 years, a lot of people know, for 20 years, I was doing everyone else's production. I was busy with everyone else's stage play. And so when I finally, in 2007, sat down and did that, in 9 weeks, I had an award-winning stage play that started from a book idea that garnered me those 45 nominations and those 26 awards, including a Lifetime Achievement Award. So I was saying to myself, I was like, oh my goodness, I should have did this years ago. And there are a lot of people that are listening, they're like, man, I could have wrote my book years ago. I could have started years ago. But what happens is something is going to distract you. Jill, as soon as you say you're going to do something, all hell breaks loose. Oh, yeah. And I tell you, I made it sacred. I said, I don't want anybody coming near me, around me. My daughter would sit at my feet for the evening session because she would fall asleep and she'd be my company, just my little company. And in the morning, I would just be alone in my office. And so when you make your writing time sacred, it works. And if you're not creative early in the morning, you can organize your thoughts. If you're not creative late at night, you can organize what you wrote in the morning because everyone has a different circadian rhythm. And so if you feel most creative, because they say we have 5 seconds of genius every single day, what are we doing during that time of that 5 seconds of genius where we just have all these thoughts come to us? What are we doing? But if you don't make your writing time that you put aside sacred, guess what's going to happen? You'll never get that time.
Yeah. And I think we get into that limiting belief or we get into those old thoughts that are negative where we say, gosh, I should have written the book 20 years ago. And so we reflect and spend, and our head spins every day on that. that we can't move forward. So we've got to let go of the past. And they say, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Today. So start today and don't worry about the past. It's Ted Lasso, be a goldfish. And second memory, which I heard is not true, but still I'll go with that anyway, because I like that example. But don't think about the past and what you didn't do. Really design, and to me, it's all about identity as well as I think when we start to tell ourselves and we start to acknowledge or identify ourselves in a certain way, we will show up that way. So instead of saying, I want to write a book, start saying, I'm a writer. And when we start telling ourselves, we start believing that, it's just going to flow out of us because we're a writer and that's what we do. I started saying I was a speaker long before I was a speaker. Yeah. And I'm like, someday I'm going to be a speaker, but I knew that was what I was called to do. And so it's keep saying it. And here it is. And it became eventually just flowed out. And now I love doing it. And I knew I would love doing it, but I was resisting it for so long because I was scared.
And you know why? Because circumstances make us think that our voice doesn't matter. Sometimes we're around people that make us think that our thoughts don't matter. What we're doing doesn't matter. Our career choices doesn't matter. And when we're around people who have that mindset, that even if it doesn't stop you right away, eventually it stops you. Eventually you think, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe my story doesn't matter. Maybe that career choice is not going to make me a lot of money. Like I posted this as well. That's why I love posting things that resonate with me. It says the one thing you have to stop wearing after the age of 30 is people's opinions. You got to stop wearing people's opinions. You have to get to the place where you have to say, what have I been called to do? What is my legacy? How do I protect my legacy? How do I share my story? And if it's not to share my story, how do I share who I am so that I can pass that on to someone? Because we're not supposed to die with our dreams, our hopes, and our goals. We're not supposed to die with that stuff. Either if you're not going to write the book, pass it on to someone else. Help them to build their story. Help them to do something. And if we get out of our heads with the me, we can help someone, or we can put something out there tangible to help someone. Like for me, my story is unique. A ballet dancer that grew up in the hip hop culture that rapped and I break dance. No one else has that story. Come on. And my parents are from Jamaica. So I grew up in a Jamaican household in an Italian neighborhood. Come on. Who has that story? Nobody. So you have to think of all the things that make you unique, and you have to drown out and block out the noise of those who are like, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter to them. Does it matter to me? How do I mentor this next generation, whether it be virtually or physically, without telling them something that was important to me, without sharing how I overcame something, without showing them how to maybe not do something that could hurt them, but do it this way, because this will benefit you. So everything that we have to offer, there's value placed on it, but it depends on who you're coming to show the value. You take a penny. You ask someone, here's a penny. How much you give me for this penny? I'll give you another penny. It's an even exchange. There's no value. The value hasn't gone up. Now you give me a penny from 1999 that has the Liberty word doubled, and the person knows that it has value. Now the same penny has just gone up to about $1,500. Mm-hmm. Now that person doesn't know on the flip side that the flame, the torch thing, is also doubled. So that value has gone up to $500,000. It's still the same penny, but the value is different depending on who you're speaking to. Mm-hmm. Your story has value. Who are you speaking to? Who are you sharing your story with? And who are you allowing to speak into your life to either encourage you or discourage you? Take away your courage.
I love that. Our value depends on our audience. It can, the environment. If I'm talking the environment, if I'm sharing something with someone that it doesn't resonate with, it's not my audience, there's no value. But if it's someone that really needs it and they're going to relate, of course, my values. I love that. That is a gold nugget right there, Queen. Woo.
Yeah. There's so many people that are just planted in the wrong garden. They're just in the wrong garden, and they don't know how to sift through the weeds that are surrounding them. They're just in the wrong garden. Now you put that plant in a garden where there's other like-minded plants that are flourishing. They're getting water, they're getting sun, they're getting the clean air. They're going to flourish. They're going to flourish. Where are you planted? And where you planted that your story can grow, so now you can make it something tangible.
You're touching on one of my Go ahead. You're touching on one of my favorite topics. I'm going with this. is the 33% rule. And that's those who watch my channel and watch my videos and know this one already, but it's really, our social circles are made up of 3 different sections, 33%. You imagine a pyramid, and there's the middle 33%. And those are the people that we generally associate with on a regular basis. They could be family, friends, coworkers. We can't always change them. They're just in our lives. And they keep us at status quo, keep us safe. It's our comfort zone. But they're not really building us up and lifting us up and challenging us to do more. And this is what you're talking about, is finding that space. And then there's a bottom 33% where they're maybe behind us and they could get a helping hand. You could help them out. They could also be dragging us down if we're not careful. So we need that balance. You don't want to drop down too low and spend too much time there either. But then there's that top 33%. And this is where I always strive to find those people that are going to challenge me, that are where I want to be, I want to emulate, that even intimidate and scare me a little bit, because it's like, oh, I don't know if they'll even talk to me, but I tell you, I just sure want to be like them. I'd love to learn what they know. And you may not actually meet them in person, but you can find them in books and movies, and not movies, but YouTube interviews, whatever it is. Find their content and learn from them. Go to their courses, their seminars. Like Monique, you find those best of the best. And Monique and Delano are top 33%. They are there. They're in that top 1% that I have. I always make that little exception. There's that 1% there. They're just like the cream of the crop. And you go and you, that's why I love sharing, everybody. This is what I share as my top 33% with you in this channel, in this podcast. And so I think we wanted always, when we're feeling down and we're like feeling like we're being repressed and we can't get ahead and we're stuck and we feel like we're stuck and we can't get anywhere. Think of Monique's story and raising, as being a single mom and doing all the things she did. She pushed through, and she was also, and I've been in those moments, is who do I need to know to help me get to where I want to go? And then along the way, I'm helping those people as I go along as well. So we are always growing and changing. And that 33%, by the way, we can get stagnant and stale if we stay, because that top 33% might move down a little bit. And we might need to continue to find more people that are going to take us to the next level. So it's not we're letting go of people. We're balancing the amount of time we spend in those areas with those kinds of people. So find those people that are going to help you, challenge you, that are going to support you. And one of my favorite lines that I heard from a friend at one point who said, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated.
Not tolerated,
Go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. So if you're being tolerated, if you're being held down, held back in a relationship, in a community, in a group of friends, if you feel like people are talking about things in your life that you're just like, oh, they're talking down about people, and you're playing along with it, but you don't feel good, you feel a little icky when you leave, maybe find a new group, find a new circle, and find some writers. If you want to write a book, find community and find your tribe. And it takes some effort sometimes. You got to create a group. I did a long time ago. And there's one other thing I was thinking of that when you were speaking is, I loved when someone said, I think it was Dean Graciosi said in one of the Tony Robbins challenges a while back, that just lit me up. He said, when we're trying to teach someone something, or we want to offer something like a book, we often ask ourselves, what does my client need? Or what does my avatar need? Or what does someone need? And suddenly a lot of us get the anxiety and the fear of, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy to offer this. I don't know everything about it. There's always somebody who's going to know more than me to write a book about this. I'm sure there's a better book about this than what I'm going to write. Is instead of thinking about what do they need, you ask yourself, what did I need at that time when I was going through it? Blew my mind. What did I need at the time? What did I need at the time that helped me get through it? And when we teach from that space, and we write from that space, and not trying to be what we think other people need, it frees us and it opens us up to be completely it opens up our heart, our soul, because at that point we can be real. We know our story. We know what happened to us. We can't say, it's like AA, they say, I'm not going to talk to you and tell you what you should do. I can only tell you and speak for how it worked for me and how I got through it. And so if I'm telling you my story, it's truth. There's no lie. Someone can't disagree with it. They can just say, that's your story. That doesn't really help me. Okay, great. It takes the pressure off of feeling like you have to be something you're not, or that you may not pass muster, or you may not fulfill a commitment. And I think that holds true with anything we write, whether it be a program or we show up for somebody, want to write a book, and we're thinking we're not worthy, or we're not going to write it. We don't have the right story. Just tell it from what worked for you.
And can I add to that? Because this is something that I've shared time and time again. If you think of the numbers 1 through 10, and you think about your skill set, and on the scale of 1 to 10, you feel like you're a 3. If you're a 3, you're qualified to teach 2, 1, and 0,
Yes.
right? If you feel like you're a 0, but you're passionate about this, you're a 0, you're qualified for -1, -2, and -3. If on a scale of 1 to 10, you don't feel like you're at a 10, you're at a place where you still can teach those who are coming up behind you. I think what happens is people feel like they have to be perfect or they have to know everything in order to teach something. If we bring babies home from the hospital and those babies knew we really didn't know what the heck we were doing, they would probably ask to stay at the hospital. Babies don't know that you don't know what the heck you're doing when they take you home. You put the baby down and you're looking at your husband, now what? And the baby's not. You look around and there's no instructions attached to them. And so a lot of times we don't know, but we learn on the way. We learn on the way. When you're writing your story and you don't know what to say next, think about, again, those most salient parts of your life. Name 5 of the most amazing things that happened, 5 of the worst things that happened, and that's your starting point. What were the 5 things? If you can't think of 5, great. Because if 5 horrible things didn't happen to you, great. What were 2? Because no one has this perfect life. I don't care where you are, who you are, what you've done, where you've been, whose family you're in. Look at the Kennedys. They had the Kennedy curse. These horrible things were happening to them, but they were the Kennedys. So you gotta know where to be planted. You gotta know what you want to share, and you have to understand that environment is everything. It is everything.
Gosh.
It's everything. But again, you don't have to be a 10. You don't even have to be a 0. If you're -1, -2, you got them because you're a step up. If you're a 7, you got 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you're a 2, you got 1, 0, -1. Always remember that there's someone who knows more than you and someone who knows less than you.
Yes. So don't make that a reason not to do it. I'm talking to myself right now, by the way. And so it's because I know Lisa Lieberman Wang, who worked with me on my brand a few years ago, working with divorced and widowed women in my reinvention program, which I'm actually going to launch again. So stay tuned on that. And it's going to be more of a comprehensive thing on reinvention and how to use that with connection. But she said to me, you only have to be 2 weeks ahead of somebody else. And so there are people in all different stages and different situations. I as much as I would love to be Oprah and have speak and interview and do something like she does, if I'm benchmarking myself against her, I won't get out of bed in the morning as much as I'd like to compare how she does things. And I like to do that. I like to see best practices. But if I have to really be realistic about who am I doing better, I have to really look with myself too. Am I doing better than I did yesterday? Is that a better interview? Did I start that better? Did I ask better questions? Did I pull out something and really bring more value? And so that's what I'm looking to improve all the time is how can I constantly improve and stop comparing with, I think, people who are a 10 and maybe I'm a 3, to just stay in your lane in a way that you can aspire without having it bring you down. It's learning from, but not expecting to be there in a nanosecond.
I like that. And to add to that, I like what Will Smith's dad said to him before he passed. Will Smith said to his dad he wanted to be the next, I guess at the time, it may have been Denzel. I want to be the next Denzel. He said, why don't you just be the next Will Smith?
The next Will Smith. Like the next, as in the next day, like as in the next, like
just be the best that you can be. And now your name will be equated with someone that's great. And I love to tell people, be you because everyone else is taken.
I love that.
Be you, but then develop who that you is. And if it has to be a composite of the best things that you've seen from virtual mentors and physical mentors, great. It's a composite, but eventually your mimicry is going to evolve into who you really are. But be you. If you focus on being the best Jill, the best Monique, the best whoever, and what does that look like? How does that person show up? How does that show up in your story? Because in your story, you're going to show when you weren't the best you, when you weren't in that right environment, when you were not putting yourself in a position to do the things that you say you want to do. That's why our stories are so powerful. And that's why I always talk about who's responsible for your legacy, because you don't want to leave it up to someone who doesn't know the ins and outs of you, and they don't know enough of your story that can help someone who really needs your story. So you are responsible for your legacy. You are. So don't be the next Denzel. Don't be the next Oprah Winfrey. Don't be the next whoever. Be the next best you. That's your competition.
That's powerful. That is so powerful. So tell me about some of the things can you give us some examples of So I can hear someone think, I'm thinking, imagining people thinking right now, what are some topics I can write on? Does it have to be about my life? Are there other things that I could write? And how would I know? Give them maybe some creative ideas of what they could write about that maybe you could focus on. If it could be their life, but maybe in what it could be applied in, maybe some case studies of what you've done, work with people.
Definitely. There are people who've been through some really traumatic stuff. And one of the things I say, you can write your story in a novel form and
Mhm.
create a whole new lead character. It's based on your life, and people don't have to know that because now you know where the content comes from, but you're creating it in a novel form. You're creating some drama, and you're using character names that are different from your family members and different from your friends. So write your life as a novel. And that way you don't feel like you're exposing things or you're saying something that your family will be like, oh, why'd you say that? That kind of thing. Because I do deal with that also. And that's real. That's very real. And I think if you're writing from scars and there's healing that has happened, then you feel comfortable doing that. But if you're writing from wounds, things that are still leaking and things that are still decomposing and things that have turned gangrene, then you really need to know how to do that, and in a way that the message will be out there, you'll help someone, but you're not triggering them. I would prefer for you to wait until those become scars or write it in a way where it's a novel form. It's a novel form. And there's ways to do it. I have several ways that you can do it, but it's a way where you walk away and you're like, I'm proud of this piece of work that I put out there. I'm proud of it. That's what we want. That's what we want. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Before we wrap up, tell us a little bit about some of the things that you are offering and what people can do to work with you or to get free content, maybe to just test out some of what you do. I know you have some books. You want to tell us a little bit about that, and then I'll make sure I put the links in the description as well.
Awesome. The first thing I share with people is that if you don't know if you're ready for a coach, try some mini online courses, try some writing courses, try something that will get your feet wet and give you an idea if this is really for you. So I have mini courses, and what I do is I take you step by step through the process. And when you're done, you can do the whole thing over again. You can take the mini courses or the micro courses as many times as you want because you're still building that story. And then I have my private group coaching where people come in and they start to outline their book, give you resources where you can start to talk about, this is what the book is about. These are some of the chapter ideas that I have. This is the intro. This is the dedication. These are the people I want to thank for going on this journey with me. So I have courses that are do it yourself. And then I have coaching. I have the Extreme Killer 3D writing course, which is attached to storytelling in 3D. That is something where you get to really develop characters if you're doing things that are fictional. So I have courses like that. There's nothing, I tried to make sure I covered everything because I know that there are people who love children's books. So I have many courses on how to write a children's book. I have a course that's do-it-yourself publishing. I teach you how to publish and how to register your book, get your ISBN number at the Library of Congress, the whole thing. And then I also have how to write a novel without going crazy. That's another. I have that book, and then I have the magic of writing kids books. So I have several products out there. I can give you that link. Several products out there that are just really to help people to get their feet wet before they make that commitment. Because remember, you have interested. Those are people who will want to know what's happening. Then you have qualified. Those are people who are willing to spend a little bit of money, but they still are getting their feet wet, but they're willing to commit. And then you have those people who are fully vetted that are investing. The person who says, I'm writing my book, I'm ready. Those are the people that are like, let's go. So I have something for everyone, interested, qualified, and invested. I make sure I have something.
Okay, so if someone's saying, okay, yeah, I've been sitting on this for a long time, what's the amount of time? Like, how long would it take for me to write my book?
If you are the type of person who can meet deadlines and guidelines, you can probably do a full out, let's say 50,000 words, you can probably do that in 3 months, 12 weeks. If
Okay.
you
50,000 words is like, how many pages would that be roughly?
50,000 it's just shy of 300. It's between
Oh, it's a big
250
book.
and 300. Yeah, between
Right.
250 and 300. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some people who need to start off with an ebook. Start off with an ebook, get used to promoting it, get used to talking about it. An ebook can be done in 72 hours, a good one, 72 hours. So
Wow.
I have a boot camp called 72 Hour Author. So yeah.
All right. I love this. I think we definitely need to, I'd love to have you back again. We're going to start when we start our community where we have people can come in and ask questions and get to know you and figure out, dive in a little bit deeper too. Because I'm all about reinvention and then connection. And it's like, how do we reinvent ourselves since COVID? All these different things we did where we said, okay, I want to do something different with my life. And that's why I think it's so timely with what you do is I think so many people are reflecting as we get older too. We're like, I want to leave that legacy. I want to have that story about, I don't want to just have lived for nothing, what you described earlier. And this is such a great way to capture that. And my mother's done that with my grandfather and my grandmother. And now she just finished my dad's story and about his experience in Vietnam and at that time in his life. And she interviewed him, which I'm like, gosh, and now I see where I get this from. But it's that she loved to do that. She loves to pull the information out, and then she loves to write, which I did not get that gene, but I got the interview part. So yeah, she loves doing that. And I think we have to do that for our family. Even if people we have in our lives, maybe it's not your story, but maybe it's someone that you care about and you love that you want to grab their information while you can. And so I think that's another beautiful way to help someone leave a legacy.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I think that your mom is on the right track. And it's nice when it's a family member, someone who, because while you're listening to the stories, you're enjoying them. You're enjoying the stories. You are literally like, oh, wow, I didn't know this happened. And so you're going on that journey with them, but you just happen to be the one transcribing it. And that is a wonderful place to be. You sitting at someone's feet in a sense and just taking in the essence of their story. That's powerful. That's very powerful. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then gathering for her, she gathered the pictures and then the different things. And then my dad wasn't very interested at first. And then she told me, and then as she started writing it, he looked at it, he said, no, it's like this. And then he got really involved because he wanted to make sure it was right and he wanted to add things. And so to me, looking at it from that perspective is if you're afraid to write a book for yourself, maybe a good way to get your feet wet is to actually write it for others and to help someone else get their story out. If you like to write, but you just don't feel like you have the desire or you're afraid to write your own, is get your feet wet with helping someone else write theirs, and then get the coaching with Monique or even just look at the program, find ways to help others, because that's so satisfying to be able to know that you've made a difference and contributed to someone else and help them get their voice and their message out there because maybe they aren't confident enough to say what they want to say. And it leaves a legacy for others. And it may not just be children, but it's other people in the world that want to hear that. So you never know where your story is going to end up and who you're going to impact through that. How many times have we read a book and we shared it with someone, or maybe even we read a book or we watched a YouTube video and we walked away feeling better with a new idea. And maybe we went home that night and we treated our family differently or whatever. And that made an impact on our kids or the people around us, the people at work. And it just spreads. And that's just what I love. That's like what makes me light up, is knowing that thing spreads like wildfire when we make an impact, and that we'll never know the depth of the impact we make when we share our stories and our experiences with someone else, because it's not just the person directly, and it's wild. It spreads like wildfire.
I like that too. And I like the fact that your father, seeing the interest that your mom took, it made him get more involved. And that's what happens when we open up and tell our stories. And so you see how he jumped in because, again, who's responsible for your legacy? So he wanted to start in sharing and, okay, change this and do that. And now that's a bond that they're creating through writing his story. That's another bond that they're creating. And that's what happens. We create these beautiful bonds with people. You know, we just lost Delano's grandmother, 105. And I don't know if there's anyone who captured her story. That's 105. She was here in the 1900s. And so that's important. It's important to have people who are willing to write the story, and also people who are willing to write their own story with help. And if you don't have help, again, if you hire a company, it's herd them in, move them out. But if you hire a coach, they're now responsible for helping you to pull out the most salient parts of your story. They're really going to help you.
That's another question I was going to bring up before we finish, is the publishing aspect of it. Is once you got the book, maybe this is for another time, but I'd love to dive in a little bit on this, is what does someone do once they're getting that book done? How do you get that out there? What are the avenues?
I do teach do-it-yourself self-publishing. And the reason why is because there's 3 ways you can go about it. You can self-publish, you can hybrid, or you can go the traditional route.
You can hybrid, you said?
Hybrid, yeah. Hybrid means that you self-publish, but a major publisher gets a hold of your book and they decide to take it on. So now you've morphed into now a traditional thing. What it is that when you self-publish, basically you're saying, I'm going to start a small publishing company. I'm going to probably do an LLC, and I'm going to publish my book on it, which means that there's going to be an imprint, which has my logo and the name of my publishing. So my name is Monique Lisa. So if I were to do Monique Lisa Publishing, then that would be my own publishing company. Then you want to think about making sure that it's registered with the Library of Congress. Then you want to make sure that you also have your ISBN number. And then you want to also start reaching out to your local libraries, because local libraries will have you come out and talk about your book. That's another way to get the community involved. Again, word community involved with you as a new author. And then you want to start to make sure that you're sharing on social media, because again, if you're taking people on that journey with you, they know you now as author, not just aspiring author, but author. And so with the self-publishing, there are ways to do this. And if you're interested in getting a literary agent, remember, literary agents do not take unsolicited information. So you want to make sure that your book is out there in enough different places that while they're looking, they are looking, but they don't want you to necessarily send, or they'll have a window of when they'll take unsolicited. But it's a lot harder. Usually celebrities have a literary agent, or someone who knows someone may present your book to a major publisher. So you have to have an inroad. It's not, traditional publishing is not an easy route, and you are giving up a huge percentage of the royalties and the profit. You are giving that up, because for the most part, they do an outright buy. They might just buy your manuscript and you get a certain amount of money over a period of time. Self-publishing, you do 100% of the work and you keep 100% of the profits. And after you paid yourself, yeah.
Which is what you and what Delano did. And his book is incredibly awesome. And Refuse to Live Talented and Broke, I think it's called, right? I have about 3 copies in the office.
Yeah, you bought several.
I've bought at least 15 of them, and I've given them out. And I have always, because that book is so thorough, and you give that as such a great example. It's not like part of it is good and then the rest of it's eh. It's every course on the menu. In the prefix menu, the whole thing is so good, and it's a workbook, and so it's just one of the best books ever. But he's actually profited from that. Where people today say, "Oh, well, you write a book, but you never make money at that anymore." So you're talking about a way to actually self-publish and really keep most of the proceeds.
Yes, and you do have to keep the book in front of people. That's why you have to make sure it's well written. Because if you get a lot of people to purchase the book, but it's not well written, it stops there. It really does stop there, because there's no one talking about it. There's no one referring it to book clubs. There's no one saying, hey, I read this book. Now I'm going to share it with you, and I want you to share it with someone. It all just stops right there. So you've got within the first month a few sales, but no one's talking about it. Buzz still works. Buzz still works. It's very important.
Because you sold almost 1 million copies of that, right? Just organically.
Not a million. When we get to that, I'm going to give you a call. I'll reach out to you so you can buy the last couple of, not 1 million, but we're doing good with it. And I remember when we first came out with it and we went to a conference and no one knew him, but because we were talking about the book, he sold like 200 of those books in 4 days. And I was like meeting the printer on the highway in another state. I was like, oh my God. And literally the books were like stuck together because the ink was wet. That's what happens when you talk about your book and it's good. When you have a good book and you talk about it, people will buy. And this is not like you throw it together. It's a $9.99 book. You know that.
Oh, I know. What is it? How much is it? Like $40, right?
Like $59.99.
Yeah, it's $60. And I'm telling you, it is a textbook. It's a story of his life. And it's also a workbook that you can totally go through and you identify your brand and your purpose. And it's so rich with so many gems. I'm trying to get Delano on here too. We're gonna get Delano on here soon.
Yeah, we're gonna book him. We're in Texas next week, and then
you're at the conference. I know, but when you get back and we'll settle in again, I would love to then, just because of what you talked about self-publishing, is I think we should distinguish too, is when someone's considering writing a book and they get to that point of what they want to do, is to know what it is. What's your goal? What is it? Are you wanting to make money from it? If so, it's the self-publishing. If you're wanting to just use it as social proof and as a business card, and you just want to get as much reach as possible, and you don't want to do a lot of the hustle and legwork to try to get it out there, then there's another angle. My question on the self-publishing is, I know you don't sell on Amazon, but are you able to sell on Amazon or something like that when you self-publish?
If you have it in ebook. Let's just say you use the
Because I
digital
was wondering,
version.
can you do an ebook and then can you, if you're self-publishing, you don't go through Amazon today, like a lot of people do, is
Some
make your
people
book.
call that. No, some people think Amazon is self-publishing. Some people think they're partnered with Amazon to help them sell, but they're
Oh, I
still
thought that.
self-publishing. Yeah, some people they look at it like that. It's because Amazon will house the product or distribute the product, but you're still the publisher. They're not the publisher. You're not on an Amazon publishing platform. You're literally using them for distribution, but you still have to do other work. That's another thing people don't realize. When you're on Amazon, you're doing all the work. Unless you're paying for Amazon ads, you still have to point people to the link. You still have to share the link. You still have to talk about it. You still have to say it's there. There's no, I have it on Amazon and that's it, because a lot of people have fallen into that trap, especially in 2020. They throw a book up there and they think that because it's up there, people are just going to buy it. No, you've got to point them to the book. You've got to tell them how much it is. You've got to talk about the book. And then you have to make sure that you're sharing that link all over the place. And then you have to reach out to some Amazon influencers to see if they can use their platform to also talk about it. So Amazon is self-publishing. It's just a wider platform where people can find you if they know you're there. If you don't know that a person has the book on Amazon, it's not going to sell.
Yeah.
No one's going to sell. No one's going to buy it. And
Right.
so with self-publishing, you don't start when the book is done. You start before the book is written.
That's right.
Understand where you want the book to be and why. It's knowing your market. If you don't know who the book is for, then you don't know who you're selling to. And if you don't talk about it and show up in the places where the people who you believe are the right genre, then they're not going to know. You need to know what your audience eats, drinks, shops, watches on television, and what they like. Because if you know all of those things, then you know where to show up and how to show up. So Amazon is a form of self-publishing, but of course there's tons of platforms. But there are some people who will put it on Amazon and then put it on other platforms. You
Okay.
just have to read the guidelines for Amazon. Can you have the ebook on Amazon and have it on another platform? Can you have them distribute your softback or your hardback and also sell as a vendor at a conference or something? So you need to
Oh,
know
right.
you need to know the guidelines based on what you choose in terms of the relationship and the partnership between Amazon and yourself. Yeah.
And I'm sure you help people with all of that, because I'm thinking like, okay, the widest reach. I love Delano and I bought his book, but generally if I have to go to a website and I can't get the Kindle version, because I'm one of these weird people that buys the copy, the physical book to mark up. But then I also, when I'm on the road, I like to have the Kindle version, but then I also have the Audible. So I'm one of those people, if I really like a book, I've got all three. And so then I'm like, but then if I can't get the Audible version, and I really like WhisperSync, which I think that's what it's called, is when you've got the book and you can download the Audible with it, so you can read along and listen. And then if you go just to the Audible app, you can listen to it. It knows where you left off, so you can highlight as you're listening. Like if I'm on the plane, I like to read it and listen at the same time and be read to. So, that you can do with self-publishing. That's something I would be like, well, if I can't do that. But then at the same time, if I'm giving all my profit away. So these are a lot of questions to ask when you're to ask yourself and to find out before you really go down that road, I assume.
It is true. It is true, because you have to think of the percentage that you decide upon with Amazon, Kindle, KDP. You have to decide that. And yes, the difference between what you said, which is basically you wanted all formats so that this can serve you based on what your need is. If I'm flying, I don't want to carry 10 books. I want to just have my Kindle. If I'm driving in my car, I cannot read. That's a hazard. I need to listen. So I think that once you are on the road to writing, all of these things should be a part of the conversations that you're having, because you don't want to wait until a product is ready. And now what? Now you got to wait another 30, 60 to 90 days to do what? No, you want this to be just like Disney or any other big company. They start talking about a movie 2 years before it comes out. And even before they start talking about it, they've already started filming it and they're showing little trailers of it. We always have to think the way big companies think. You cannot wait until the last minute or the 11th hour, because now if you say, okay, the book is ready, now I'm going to do a launch 2 weeks after, you haven't built up enough of an audience or built up enough of interest for people to want to come out. So when do you start talking about it? Yesterday. Yeah, start talking about it yesterday.
So much.
Start thinking about, am I self-publishing? Am I looking for a literary agent? Am I going to let that literary agent shop me to traditional? Am I willing to wait the year or two that it will take? Because it will take some time as an unknown author, because they're looking to make money. You might have a great story, but they're looking to make money. So do you need time to have a buildup? And that buildup can be you on the self-publishing side, being found by a literary agent or a traditional publisher.
Wow.
Never let anything stop you from getting that story out.
Okay. I love that. These are great tips. And I know people are going to want more and want to connect with you. So we'll have all the links to your website and how to reach you. And you're found on Clubhouse sometimes too, which is fun. And every Wednesday you're there. Okay.
Every Wednesday. Yeah, I'm 3 years in. Every Wednesday, 4:10 p.m. Yeah, I don't start at 4 because there's always something happening at 4 o'clock. I was like, this is ridiculous. Come on now. So 4:10 to 5:10. And then I start the private coaching Wednesdays. Wednesday's my longest day because I get my private clients in my group coaching. Yeah.
All right. I love that. Thank you, Monique. We'll definitely check that out and add that information there as well. And so definitely connect with Monique and leave some comments in the description below. Tell us what you liked about this. Ask questions. Monique will answer them. I'll answer them. And tell us what you want to hear more of in the future. Are you liking these interviews? Who's resonating with you? And just reach out on social media, get to know us, and definitely subscribe to this, because I want to continue to bring you great content, and I can bring you the most amazing speakers, the bigger the channel gets. And we have some exciting, more exciting guests coming up. So definitely do that and share it with your friends too. Someone that needs this, this person needs to write a book and they've been talking about it, or you've been pushing them to do it. They need this interview. So send them the link and do that. Okay. So I love it. Thank you so much. And definitely get connected, stay connected. And Monique, have a great weekend. And it was so good seeing you. I can't wait to catch up again. Thanks.
Yes, and same to you. Thank you for being such an awesome host and doing such an amazing job. I appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Have a great afternoon and day, everyone. Take care.